This enemy had no army, no tanks, no fighter jets, yet it managed to do what powerful nations had failed to do for decades. It struck fear into the heart of the most powerful country in the world. And for years, that country struggled to understand how to fight back. There were no warning signs, no soldiers gathering at borders, no missiles appearing on radar. Just silence, patience, and then suddenly chaos. This is the story of how al-Qaeda became the most dangerous enemy America ever faced. For a long time, the world believed it understood what danger looked like. Threats came in predictable forms. Nations built armies, displayed power, and prepared for direct confrontation. Wars were fought on battlefields where both sides could see each other. There were strategies, alliances, and clear objectives. But hidden beneath all of that was a different kind of threat slowly taking shape, one that did not follow any of those rules. This new enemy did not rely on strength in numbers. It relied on something far more effective: invisibility. It operated in the shadows, across different countries, using secrecy as its shield. It was not trying to win a traditional war. It was trying to change the way war itself was fought. Long before the world noticed, careful plans were already being made. Conversations happened in quiet places, far from attention. Messages were passed in ways that could not easily be traced. Every detail was considered. Every move was deliberate. This was not rushed. It was built slowly, patiently, over time. And that patience would later become one of its most dangerous advantages. Then came a day that seemed completely normal. The sky was clear. The streets were busy. People followed their routines without any sense that history was about to change. Flights took off as scheduled. Offices filled with workers. Everything felt ordinary. But sometimes, the most ordinary moments hide the most extraordinary events. September 11th, 2001. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Planes were in the air, moving toward their destinations. But something had already gone wrong. Communication began to break. Signals were lost. Confusion started quietly, almost unnoticed. And then, within a short period of time, that confusion turned into something much worse. The September 11th attacks unfolded in a way that no one had prepared for. Planes, which were meant to carry people safely across the sky, were turned into weapons. In a matter of moments, the world watched as destruction happen in real time. Buildings that represented power and stability were struck. Smoke filled the sky. Fear spread faster than anyone could process what was happening. People were not just watching an attack. They were witnessing a complete shift in how danger could appear. America, a nation known for its strength and security, had been caught completely off guard. And what made it even more terrifying was the realization that this attack did not come from a visible army. There were no soldiers to fight, no battlefield to defend. The enemy had already disappeared. In the hours that followed, confusion turned into fear. Questions filled the air. Who was responsible? Could it happen again? Was anywhere truly safe? The sense of control that people once felt began to slip away. And in that moment of uncertainty, one thing became clear. This was not going to be a normal war. As investigators began searching for answers, a name started to emerge. A network that had operated quietly for years, avoiding attention while building its strength in a different way. Al-Qaeda. Understanding this enemy was not easy. It did not have a single location. It was not tied to one country. It was spread out, connected through belief and coordination rather than territory. This made it incredibly difficult to track. Traditional methods of warfare were suddenly less effective because there was no clear target. And that was exactly the point. This enemy did not want to fight on a battlefield where it could be overpowered. It wanted to create fear, confusion, and unpredictability. It wanted to strike in ways that could not easily be prevented. And by doing so, it forced one of the most powerful nations in the world into a position it had never been in before, reacting instead of controlling. America responded quickly. There was no hesitation. A war was declared, but this time, it was different. This was not a war against a country. It was a war against an idea, a network, a strategy. The war on terror had begun. Troops were sent out. Intelligence agencies intensified their efforts. Surveillance increased. Every possible resource was used to track down those responsible. At the center of it all was one man, Osama bin Laden. He became the face of the enemy, the figure everyone was searching for. But finding him was far from simple. He did not stay in one place. He moved carefully, avoiding patterns, using the environment to his advantage. Mountains, remote regions, hidden compounds. All of these became shields that made it harder to locate him. Time passed, but the search continued. Years went by, and despite all the effort, the enemy remained difficult to fully eliminate. This was not because America lacked strength, but because the nature of the enemy made it hard to confront directly. Every time progress was made, new challenges appeared. Every time a plan was formed, it had to be adjusted. Meanwhile, the psychological impact of the attacks continued to grow. People became more cautious. Security became stricter. The world changed in ways that were visible in everyday life. Airports, public spaces, even simple routines began to feel different. The fear that had been created did not disappear. It stayed, quietly influencing how people thought and behaved. And that was one of the most powerful weapons this enemy had. It did not need to attack constantly. The memory of what already happened was enough to keep people on edge. That constant sense of uncertainty created a kind of pressure that was difficult to escape. It was not just about physical damage anymore. It was about psychological control. As the years went on, efforts to locate Osama bin Laden became more focused. Intelligence gathering improved. Patterns began to emerge. Slowly, carefully, pieces of information started to connect. It was not a sudden breakthrough, but a gradual process of narrowing down possibilities. Then came a lead that felt different. It pointed to a location that did not immediately stand out, but something about it raised questions. A compound that seemed too secure. Behavior that did not match expectations. It was not proof, but it was enough to investigate further. A plan was formed. It had to be executed with precision. There was no room for error. In 2011, under conditions of complete secrecy, the operation was carried out. It was fast, controlled, and carefully coordinated. Every second mattered. And then, after years of searching, the moment finally came. Osama bin Laden was found and eliminated. It was a significant moment, one that marked a major step in a long and difficult conflict. But even then, there was an understanding that this was not the true end of the story, because this enemy was never just one person. It was a network that had already spread across different regions. It was an idea that had already influenced how conflicts could be carried out. Even without its leader, the structure and impact remained. The world had changed. Wars would no longer be fought only between nations with visible armies. There would now be conflicts that existed in shadows, driven by strategy, secrecy, and unpredictability. The rules had shifted, and everyone had to adapt. And that is what made al-Qaeda the most dangerous enemy America ever faced. Not its size, not its weapons, but its ability to force a powerful nation to fight a war it had never prepared for. A war without clear boundaries. A war without clear enemies. A war where fear itself became one of the most powerful forces on the battlefield. If you find this video interesting, please do well to comment, like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications bell to always get more interesting videos like this one. Thank you.